Hello, everybody. This is Darren Redmond, and we're going to be speaking with Austin Reed again for the first time. Who's Austin Reed? I don't know. No, I'm kidding. He happens to be, in the old days when my grandma used to say, a one-man band, right? And that wasn't a negative thing. Uh, Austin Reed is the antithesis of a one-man band. He is a person who cares so much about the community that he will write, produce, edit, direct, find ways into stories that other people just would not find the time to do. He is the host, and I would say creator. He'll probably say no, but creator of the 8 o'clock news, the live news on My53 here in Fresno. And by the way, beyond, just watch it on the internet. Watch it via your streaming devices. And Austin's just a great guy. And Austin, thank you for being my guest today on this edition of Again for the First Time.
Well, Darren, you are a great guy. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored that I get to be on your podcast now. I've interviewed you numerous times. It's, you're one of my favorite individuals across the Fresno area. You do so much for the community as well. So it's a pleasure.
And for those of you keeping the score at home, yes, Austin and I both do work, volunteer work and beyond for a organization that helps people who are in the throes of addiction. And for those of you who want to learn more about the Zachary Horton Foundation, please go online and find out. And there's a wonderful summit coming up. We'll give details down the road. But also for those kids out there, those wacky kids and those older people, my age, who don't know you, talk a little bit about your background.
Well, I was born in Asheville, North Carolina.
All right, that sums it up, kid. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Yeah, right. I know. But I always say I didn't really grow up there per se, because I moved with my parents to Portland, Oregon when I was like 8 years old. So I consider the Northwest really, really home. I had a fascination with television news, especially since I was shortly after I got to Portland. I remember watching Peter Jennings at 9 years old and even watching CNN. And that was the early days of CNN when they were just doing news, just doing headlines, unlike what it is today. All the cable channels, it's weird, but we don't need to go into that. And then I had a fascination with television news. And I think I was maybe around 9 years old after just kind of being glued to the television and watching Peter Jennings. For some reason, I really like Peter Jennings. I don't know why.
He was great.
He was great. Yeah. And the theme, the dun 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 dun, which they finally brought back after getting rid of it for a number of years. One of the dumbest movies they could have.
Here's a great idea.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, let's pick new news music, even though that's your jingle. But so I was maybe around 9 years old. I turned my parents' basement into a pseudo newsroom. I would do these newscasts when I'd come home from school, and my co-anchors were my stuffed animal friends. And sometimes I'd bring my neighbor friends over, and we just host these newscasts. And I also I was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis when I was 3 years old. So one of the local, that's right, my dad brought me to the ABC affiliate in Portland, KATU, when I was 9. And they found out that I had this pseudo newsroom. They found out that I had cystic fibrosis. So they thought, oh, this would be a great feature story. So they came by and did a whole news package on, this 9-year-old kid who's turned his whole basement into a newsroom, and he's got cystic fibrosis, just that those human stories that they love, that television news loves, especially local news. And they'd asked, so they did that report on me. And then shortly after, they asked if I wanted to be like a junior reporter. So after that, I did that for about a year. I'd go out with her name was Paula Gunnis, and I do these kid stories with her as helping me, and her camera, her photographer. Did that, like I said, for about a year, and then I went to the UPN affiliate. I did maybe a year with them, and let's see. And then I thought I wanted to go into the NBA, even though I'm 5'6" and today I'm maybe 150 pounds. So I took a little bit of time off from television news per se. And at 13, my dad had an idea. He said, "Austin, why don't we go to the local cable access station, and you can learn more about broadcasting and do your own shows and use their equipment." So similar to CMAC here
Right.
in Fresno. And man, I every single week I did a local newscast. It was called Rose City News, and it was a newscast produced by myself, and then I had actually a bunch of kids from across the Northwest. I remember I'd put ads on Craigslist saying, "Hey, do you want to be a teen reporter?
Right.
Come join my show." And I did that for four years. And then I started a high school, a news department for my high school, James Madison in Portland. And by the time I was 17, the Fox affiliate in Portland, KPTV, I think I had reached out to them just saying, "Hey, I have this idea we should do like teen reports, for their 10 o'clock news." And the news director loved the idea, and that they hired me. So I was making like 17, 18 bucks an hour while still in high school. And this was a long
Back
time
then,
ago.
that was good toe right there, my friend.
Yeah, I know. So I worked with them at KPTV for 3 years. I learned from some of the best journalists. There's 210 TV markets in the country. Portland is a very big one. At the time, I think it was market 25. It's even grown now. I think it's like 22. But so I was learning from some of the best in the business. Worked there for 3 years, had a blast. And then I moved out to New York City, did some acting for a little while. My whole father's side's from New York, and
Right.
yep, shout out to the five boroughs.
Yes, yes.
um, and so I did some acting for a little while, and then I realized, dang it, I miss television news. So at that time, I found an agent to work with, and he got me a job as a reporter for the NBC station in New Mexico, serving the Albuquerque market. And man, really the rest is history. I've worked all around the country, in West Virginia, New Mexico, Idaho, Oregon a number of times, Arkansas. I've been around, and but I'm kind of, I feel like my kids are, they're growing up here in the Fresno area. I married a woman from Madera Ranchos, and so we're happy here. And I got this opportunity about a year ago now to the Channel 53 hired me to launch Central California's, realistically, like the fourth news department. There's ABC 30, there's KMPH, CBS 47, KC 24, and there's us now. And it's the best job I've ever had. I've always had a dream of being a news director. That's kind of like, top of the line in broadcasting, and to launch a fourth independent station in 2023 is pretty rare. So
Yes. There's so much there to unpack. And I want to start, because I just want to jump all over the place, but I want to start with your parents. And I've never met your parents, but it sounds to me like you had wonderful parents, because they saw your itch of news and they played into it. They weren't some of these well-meaning parents, Oh, stop playing that kind of stuff and stick to STEM stuff. And not that there's anything wrong with the STEM stuff. Don't get me wrong. But my master's degrees in education. But they didn't show creativity, and they fostered it. And then, without going into any detail, because I don't, you know, your business is your business. When you received your diagnosis, they did not stop with your beliefs. They didn't treat you like a little China doll that you're going to break every 3 minutes. I think that is, and again, not judging people who take that route, but I
Yeah.
love that they cultivated and believed and allowed you to go out there and do the things that you wanted to do because, my gosh, look where you are.
Right.
Look where you are right now. And one of the many things I really appreciated about you and knowing some of your story was you always had a continental view. Living on the West Coast, living on the East Coast, living in New York City. Uh, so here's my first question, which you probably didn't think would come. People keep saying things like, well, here it's different. People here are different. Did you find that always to be the case, or there's redundancies where people are? They want to know the facts, they want to be treated with respect, and
Yeah.
some of the other little fringe things are different.
Well, I think that what is making Channel 53 News unique is I feel like a lot of the stations here in Fresno, they've been doing the same thing for 30, 40 years. And they've gotten just and I'm not saying that it's the wrong way to do television news. I think it's a boring way to do television news, a lot of our competitors. But Fresno and Central California, it's changing. There's people are moving here from across the country. And what I'm trying to do with Channel 53's news is be unique, be different, and bring some of that flair that I learned from working at some of the best ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox affiliates across the country in different communities. And so, I think this market is ready for something different. And I hear that a lot. One of my interns was telling me this story the other day. She was saying she was talking to one of her friends, and she said that she was doing this internship with me, and he goes, "Well, I watched that newscast. You know what? I actually really like it because it reminds me of like LA or New York, the bigger markets, that tell stories in a different way." And so yeah, it's a good feeling. And I just think that this market can be very stale, and it's ready for something different. So that's what I'm trying to do.
And again, I have some good friends and associates that we both have who are on some of those other places, and God bless, they do a good job in what they do. But what I find is that your newscast finds interesting things that are not, oh, there's another cat caught up in a tree, because local can still be very interesting.
Yes.
I find a lot of syndicated content in a lot of the other stuff. If you want to talk a little bit about that, because you are also the person who makes all those, as the news director, decisions about what goes on the air. So the old bleeds it leads. While you do that, you don't put pom poms on it and make it something out of a video game.
Right.
Talk about your process about what is interesting and what can be seen.
So what the brand that I came up with, and the slogan that I'm really trying to live by, is new, local, unique.
Right.
So while yes, we are going to cover crime, because that's crime happens. You can't
Right.
escape from that. But I'm not going to have 4 reporters on one story.
Right.
And the first 10 minutes of the news, it's probably going to be, you know, more hard stories, meaning more, just here's what happened today. Was there a school lockdown today? We keep seeing those. We've been dealing with that. There was the Goshen massacre. But what we are, or the,
I'm gonna stop you there because I want to give you praise on something because you just mentioned it. The school lockdowns. And not locally here as much. Everybody does a pretty good job, but in other parts of the country, what's going on? And they get the over worried parent and have them say, and you see stuffed animals, and they try to use these visuals that will make somebody really panicky. To your credit, you and your people, just here's what's going on, and you don't sugarcoat it, nor do you just say it's no big deal. You just state facts. People are smarter than we give them credit. Talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, well, so when the Goshen massacre happened, for instance, what we did that was different, and the same, we did this the same night of the Selma police officer that was shot and killed. Yeah. We, where the other stations, they will maybe play 2 minutes of the press conference, right? We have the ability to, like the Goshen massacre, I did 10 minutes of, maybe 10, 12 minutes of coverage. But I tried to pick some of the best sound bites out of a 2-hour long press conference. And we let the sheriff talk. We let some other people in the press conference talk. I personally am trying to go to as many press conferences as I can because I feel that's very important.
I know you did that. I know you did that with the deputy sheriff.
Yep. Yeah. Great. Because I want to. I mean, I guarantee you, you will never ever see another news director go to a press conference. Not going to happen.
Right.
They sit behind their desk. They're in the newsroom. They're making all these decisions, but yet they're not a part of the story. So I'm very lucky that I get to do that. And it's not that my owners, my station group, they're saying you have to do that. No, I want to do that because I'm a journalist and I want to ask questions. I want to bring my viewers, if they have questions, they can always reach out to me and I will ask those questions at the press conference. Our new sheriff, John Zanoni, I talked to him off camera. Well, on camera asking questions, but off camera. I want to get to know these leaders. And other news directors, they don't do that. They just don't. So so that's right there. That's unique. A lot of news anchors, they don't go to press conferences. They sit behind a desk. They read a teleprompter. They may be a part of the editorial decision. I don't know. But all the anchors that I've worked with, most of them, a lot of them are literally, they're coming in, they're reading a teleprompter, they're maybe looking at some of the scripts. They may say we should cover this story and they go home. I'm not going to be that kind of news director or news anchor as well.
Right. Now, how do you fight the reality of burnout? Because that is something we know that we have to balance.
Yeah.
Because the way you like to go, balls to a wall, there's going to be real chances of burnout.
So this is my game plan, right? I knew upon taking this job and doing this, it's a lot of work. But what makes me different compared to most journalists in this market is I have a passion for broadcasting. I love what I do. Right. I make sure, though, to get out of there, by 6:30, so I can come home and be with my kids. Even
Right.
though the news is at 8 o'clock, but we're not live. We
Right.
pre-record. So I have, there's balances. There's days that I may go in a little bit later. Or if I need to, go to my daughter's father-daughter dance, I leave at 5 o'clock so I can bring them at 6 o'clock. I try not to
So
work on the
important.
weekends.
Right.
Yeah, it is. But no, the beautiful thing is for me is I wake up so excited to go in and do what I do. And I work with a lot of young journalists. And I love being able to show them the way. And but also they need to be aware of this is a tough business. And yes, there is going to be burnout. I know that. But upon taking this, I'm giving myself a couple years, right?
Right. Right.
We on April 1st, we'll be celebrating 1 year on the air from 8 to 9 p.m. And so yes, I have to have a balance. I try as hard as I can to leave work, like I said, by 6:30 every night, not work on the weekends.
So important. So
So
important.
yeah, but I'm and we're growing. We're Channel 30, they've got 50, 60 people in their newsroom. We've got just a few.
Right.
And but it's not always going to be like that,
No. So I want to ask
Increments.
because me, I'm a nerd. I want to ask a nerdy question before I ask one that might actually be interesting. Here's been my kind of weirdness because I love marketing, right?
Right.
Why does every station show commercials at the same time? So my thought would be if there's a commercial on and I'm going to kind of channel surf, I would want my content on at that time when other people have a commercial. So talk to me about that.
So those kind of decisions are kind of out of my
Oh yeah,
hands.
that's yeah. Like most people want to know who makes those decisions. Not local, not you.
Right. Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of stations they have like in a half an hour show, there's the first 10, 12 minutes, and then maybe there's a 5, 6 minute block commercial again, maybe another
Right.
5 minute block, and then 2, 3 minutes, what we would call the D block at the end.
Right.
I yeah, that I don't know.
Right.
I don't
I
know.
said I just like why does that come into my mind? I don't know. So here's another question I
I'll
have.
investigate for you.
Yes.
I'll talk to our sales team.
Here's another question I have. And when you have 10 pounds of potatoes and try to stick it into a 5-pound sack, you of course have stories that you could spill over to the next day. What is your process? And because you have all of these reporters and interns working on stories and you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but somebody's got to be first, somebody's got to be last, and somebody's going to get bumped. What is your overall process with that?
So I go into each day thinking, I kind of think of it old school, right? What our show airs, at 8 p.m. So for stories that, I call it our three big stories. There's so much that happens, and not only Fresno, but Hanford, Visalia,
Right.
Los Banos, Merced. What are the three things that when they watch our news, I hope that at least one of the stories that I pick will be something that people will be talking about the following morning at the water cooler.
Right.
Or what is that what's trending, what's happening. Tomorrow, for instance, we are going to I want to get somebody on from either Fresno State or Fresno City and discuss these spy balloons,
Right.
these, you know, I mean, four things shot down just in in a matter of days. Are they, you know, these UFOs?
Right.
So how can we, so that's something that everybody is talking about. Obviously, the Super Bowl was tonight, so
Right.
that's going to be something that we're going to be talking about. But how can we, and again, this goes back to being unique. How can we tell this story different than Channel 30 and Channel 26 and Channel 24,
And
47,
and
even
by the
though they're the
way,
same station?
knowing you as I do and knowing the content that you provide, it's not just do it differently, do it different and not treat the viewer like they're dumb or
Right.
like just treating them as the smart people that they are or can be, because you never put schlock out there. You know, I've never seen you put your name behind something that is schlocky
Thank you.
or sounds like you're treating the viewer with disrespect. Yeah, and
Thank you.
no, it's true. I'm going to say it if it wasn't true. Um, so that's really got to be tough because you have all of those moving parts.
Mhm.
So, before I draw to a close, just to kind of for people to get to know you better. Well, I want to, if I may digress, I want to go back to one thing about you having cystic fibrosis, if you don't mind. Um, I think personally that you are an incredibly motivating person for that kid right now gets that diagnosis or finds out or is feeling bad or whatever. How do you balance that without wanting to be the news guy that has cystic fibrosis? How do you balance that?
Well, I
Because you do a
don't.
wonderful job of it organically, but
Thank you.
if you had to give your thought to it,
So I enjoy covering cystic fibrosis stories when I can, but I'm not going to do it every single night.
right?
I don't want to be a poster child for cystic
Well, that's my
fibrosis.
point. That's my point. Yeah.
Yeah. But well, I mean, like for instance, something that I struggle with every single day is I have stomach aches every day.
Right.
That's period. Like there's no day that I don't have stomach ache or stomach problems. It's part of this disease. But um I'm not going to come on the air and complain about it, you know. So if there's a, you know, for kids that are dealing with something, whether it is physically or mentally, all I will say is find your passion. What do you love to do? And take that passion and make it a career, because then it'll all be worth it. Do what you love. And I don't love just storytelling. I love the whole brand. I love the news music. I love picking the graphics. You know, right now we're on a green screen set, but eventually I want to get a real gorgeous set, you know. But
Right.
viewers are not, they're hip to that now. You know, Channel 30 just got this gorgeous new set, but I don't think viewers care as much anymore,
They
especially after
they
COVID.
they really don't. I don't know the name of the person. Shame on me. But I was reading somebody write about somebody's comments on social media about your broadcast that it reminded them of New York. That it reminded that quality. And they're not dumb. They know you're using a green screen, and that's exactly what I mean by saying you don't play your viewers for fools. You have a wonderful background, and they know it's a green screen, and you don't have to tell them it's a green screen because nobody is pretending here.
Right.
It is what it is. And
Thank
you
you.
because your content matters. And you're killing the
Well,
content.
thank you. And like in New York City, for me, that is my favorite news market in the entire country. You know, I grew up and I still obsess over Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Sure, sure.
Roger Grimsby, Bill
Yep,
Butel,
yep.
you know, that whole brand. And you know,
Rosanna Scott, all of those
yeah,
people.
yeah, Fox 5, that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, actually,
And
she was on Eyewitness before she went to Fox 5.
right, she was.
Because
Yeah, yeah.
remember,
I don't
I'm as old as dirt. She was the prototype for Gilda Radner's Rosanna Dana. When she,
Right.
So I'm just old.
But also
Anyway,
like, but Walter Cronkite,
sure.
Edward R. Murrow, it really, it's sad for me to know this as a fact. Young journalists and even journalists that are my age, they don't know anything about Walter Cronkite, and that's a
No, they don't.
shame.
They don't.
That's a shame.
Not to tell war stories, but if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you a difficult question before I let you go. And I asked the same question of some professors I just interviewed. A wonderful podcast with Kim Stevens and Faith Sidlow. And I'm going to give you my answer first to make it a little easier. What do you think young wannabe journalists are really good at right now? What do they really lack? And I'll give you my answer first because I see it all the time.
Okay.
Because as you know, I do a lot of content, whether it's documentaries, whether it's for your sports teams or for nonprofits or whatever the case may be. They're really good at advocating what color hue to use, what font to use. They're terrible storytellers, and they're really bad at deadlines. They don't understand that a solid B plus and getting it in on time is a lot more important than an A plus that's really beautiful and is not on deadline or runs too long in your world. Talk to that. What are your thoughts?
So what I'm seeing is this business is not just walking in, writing a story, and going on the air. Those days are gone. You have to be able to do it all. You like you started this podcast, you have to think one-man band.
Yes.
You need to know how to edit. You need to know how to produce. You need to know how to write for television. You need to know how to get that interview that other reporter wasn't able to. You need to learn how to go to press conferences and ask tough questions. I have a girl right now, her name's Emma, and I brought her to her first press conference ever. She's an intern and she goes to Fresno State. And this was a press conference with Lisa Smitkamp, our district attorney.
Sure. Powerhouse.
And there was a reporter from channel 24 and 47. He didn't ask that. I shouldn't have said he, but that reporter didn't ask one question.
He or she, whoever that might be.
Who he or she. Not one question. This is CBS 47, KC 24, a Nexstar owned station. Emma, who is still in school, came with me to that press conference. She asked 2 questions. Now that is impressive. And that's what that's what young journalists, they gotta just, they can't be scared. They can't be intimidated, and they have to hold the powerful accountable.
Because we're both nerds and love this industry that you do. I'm going to give you another tough question with that. How do you teach the Emmas of the world to be able to ask that tough question, but not ask the question that is going to be on some level insulting to that person, personal to that person, in a negative context? Because that's not an easy thing to figure out. And also, to marry it up to that, unfortunately, how do you teach someone just breaking into the business when it's time to say, leave the grieving people alone for a couple days?
So, well, and when we were covering the Goshen massacre, all the other stations, they were going to that neighborhood and harassing neighbors. Do you have, Ring video? These people are scared. We didn't, on the day of the Selma officer shooting, we didn't harass the Selma Police Department asking them, oh, can we interview this person? Can we interview the family? Leave them alone. Leave them alone. Have some freaking respect. But yeah, it's really sad. I remember when I was 19, I was put on a story to go ask neighbors about, some kind of meth case or something. I don't remember what it was. And I felt like such an asshole.
Right.
You know, so I think on big stories, on right when it happens, yeah, leave the grieving alone. Let officials say their side. I'm not saying that officials are always going to be honest,
Right. No,
but
right. But
there's
there's
a
a time and a
time and a
place.
place.
Right. Yep. Yep. You
So,
know,
yeah.
I'll leave you one last story for me, and I want to ask you something, and we'll go. Um, so not the same thing, but somewhat similar, as C.S. Lewis would say. I remember I got a phone call, and I won't say from what newspaper, but if you said New York Times, I'd say yes. And they wanted to do a story on Chris Rock and high school Chris Rock, because Chris Rock and I went to the same high school at the same time, and we were not friends, we were not foes. You know that kid in math class you just never talked to,
Right.
whatever. But we had similar friends that ran in similar circles. And the person said, "Well, didn't you go to school with him?" I go, "Yeah, yeah, but he wasn't my friend." You're like, "Why wasn't he?" Trying to find a story that just wasn't there. And they said, "Well, what's your impression of what it was like?" First off, whatever my impression is, isn't fact. You know, that, and I just politely said, "You're getting nothing from me because I can't add nothing." That's like saying that me and Austin went to a ball game at Shea Stadium. Maybe we did, but we didn't share a hot dog. I mean,
Right.
it's, and I think the person was sort of, and I'm not looking for virtue signaling on my behalf, but I was like, how many people would have stepped up and just said, "Well, I thought he was aloof," or "I thought he was great," or what? But there's no substance to that,
Right.
you know?
There are so many other great stories to tell.
Right, right,
um and that's whether that is doing something with maybe Valley Animal Center, or
right,
maybe that's featuring something that a student, like, positivity. I think that, not the whole, and also, you don't have to do exactly what the other stations are doing. Have your own
right,
identity,
right, right.
and do something different. I mean, another thing we do is some nights you'll see a 7-8 minute interview of me just talking to, whether it's the district attorney or a rabbi, I don't know.
Right.
um, you gotta, yeah, these, you don't have to do the same thing as everybody else.
Right. Right. So here's my last kind of question and a half, and because I'm a big believer in getting to know people. It's 1 o'clock in the morning, theoretically. You're ready to go to bed. What TV show/movie, no matter how many times you've seen it, would stop you in the tracks and make you sit down and watch?
Seinfeld.
Seinfeld, very good. I love he said Seinfeld. So,
Love
uh,
Seinfeld. Or
me too.
I'm such a dork and nerd. I will sit on my phone. My wife's always like, "Come watch something with me." I'm like, "No, I'll just hang out on my phone." I will watch classic TV news opens. Like,
Oh, sure.
I've been obsessed with watching WPVI Action News in Philly,
Mhm.
because they still use that "Move Closer to Your World" theme.
Oh, nice,
So
very nice. Yes. So,
and so yeah.
so who was your local guy? Like you mentioned, Peter Jennings was your national guy. Who was your local guy or gal? Yeah, of course.
S- So, like, oh, when I was a kid,
Yeah, like
the
when
local,
right.
I really enjoyed Steve Dunn on KATU ABC2. He's still there. Also Wayne Garcia on KPTV Fox 12. He's still there. He's now, I think, like the assistant news director. But
Right.
let's see who else. Oh, I really, really liked Mike Donahue and Shirley Hancock. I thought they were a great team. They were on the CBS affiliate. Um, so yeah, there, yeah. Here in Fresno, but and here in Fresno, we have some great anchors. I think Warren Armstrong does a great job. Monty Torres does a great job.
And by the way,
Um,
a great guy. I know him
y-
personally. He's a friend.
yes, you know
Wonderful.
what? He sent me a very nice message on LinkedIn just a few weeks ago, which is very rare because people in television news are very, how do you say, jealous, and they think they're better than everybody.
And that's not Monty. He is just such.
I know. I was like, yeah, he was giving me suggestions on where to go to get some cheap suits. I was
Right.
like, this
Yeah, because
guy's
you put out
awesome.
that posting. Yeah.
So
That's dynamite.
and I think Liz Gonzalez is really good. I
She's
like
another friend. I
Graciela
like her very
Moreno.
much. Yes.
So I respect a lot of our local journalists.
You know,
Um,
I was talking. I mentioned, obviously I'm a fan of Kim Stevens as well, and we were
and Kim, yes.
talking with her and Faith, and we mentioned that about this market.
Mhm.
That yeah, you're all in competition with each other, but nobody's trying to step on each other's neck. You got the local
Yeah,
people here respect the local news worker. The
I
person who
I
works
I think
hard.
the ain't. I mean, I would say I hate to say this, but I like just being honest. I
No, of
feel
course.
like the old school anchors, the ones that have been in the business for, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, yeah, they're like that.
Right.
Some of the younger
Oh,
ones,
100. I get it. I get it.
right?
I
Yeah,
get
they're
it.
just like they look at you, they give you dirty looks when you're out on the same story. And
Somebody
um,
has to, and you know what? Those are the NFL people, as Jerry Granville used to call, not for long, because they
that's
don't
right.
understand that
They don't.
you don't get
No,
anywhere that way,
no,
doing that sort
no.
of thing. So my last question for you, name well, and it's two-parter. Name me one song that reminds you of your happiness as a child, and two, the greatest movie you've ever watched.
Um, I like Celebration by Kool and the Gang. Anytime I'm in a good mood, I'll turn that on. Because yeah, I don't know, it just makes me happy. I love like
Right.
older music. My wife always calls me a very old soul. She's an old soul too, but she likes she only likes new music. She hardly likes any of the
Right.
old stuff from the 70s and 80s.
But she's right
Let's
about you. You're an old soul.
I think I
You're an old soul, by the way. Go ahead. So movie.
move um some of Adam Sandler's earliest
Right.
stuff. So like Mr. Deeds, and
Sure.
then
Not nearly as well known as some of his others, but should be. It's very good.
right, it's a great movie, yeah. And
Yes.
then oh my God, I'm forgetting the name. I love all of his earlier stuff, but not Waterboy. Waterboy was good too, but
Right. Billy
it's
Sa-
Billy Madison.
Billy Madison. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so that brings me back to my
Excellent.
happy place.
I like it. Anyway, Austin, thank you for being my guest today. And
It's a
for
pleasure.
those of you, for the two people out there who don't know, but tell people how they can find you and where your news program is and everything else.
I would love people to watch weeknights at 8 p.m. Channel 53 over the air, channel 53.1. And by the way, this is the first time that Channel 53 has ever done local news, other than they used to air, I think, a repeat of Channel 30.
Right.
But as far as them having their own news department, this is the first time. And Channel 53 is a legacy station here in Fresno. I mean, it's been around since the 50s, 60s, when I forget the day it went on the air, but 53.1 over the air with an antenna. And then we're on Comcast Channel 9. Or Xfinity, whatever they call it now. Or if you want to just watch on your phone, just download the local B as in boy, local BTV app, and you can watch it there. I think you can get it on Roku and Fire TV as
I
well.
was saying on the Fire Stick. What are they looking for?
Yep. Yeah.
Same?
Yeah. Yeah. Same. Yeah. Or I always like to pimp out my Austin Reed network because I do. That's
I was
kind
waiting
of
for that. That's what I was. Yeah. That's what
so.
I
Yeah.
was waiting for. I was trying to throw you a bone there, my friend.
I know. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so obsessed with the news
You're
right
welcome.
now. But yeah, Austin Reed Network on Roku, Amazon Fire TV. I have a show called The Reed Report, which also airs on Channel 53. That's Fridays at 8 a.m. And that's kind of a different side of me. That's more of this kind of side, just like
Right.
chill and relaxed. And they can always hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Austin Reed on Air. And I'd love to hear from you. If you have an idea, what do you want to see in local television news in 2023? Hit me up, and I may actually, I may do what you say. So I invite you to connect with me.
Thank you so much, Austin. Have a great one. Austin Reed, everybody, again for the first time.